This thing I probably would have called a raise. This is a strong hand. We've got five Broadway cards. Um, well, four Broadway cards, a nine, a seven. Just high card concentration and a nut suit. It's a strong hand. Definitely, we could defend against the button open. Not that the concept of like a button open has a lot of relevance for the raising ranges of most six card PLO players, in my opinion. Although I'd like to think that I open a more nuanced range than your typical player based on position. But it's not like Hold'em where, guys will be folding Queen 10 under the gun, but opening it in the cutoff or whatever, where there's that very regimented approach to the game, even from more recreational players. In six card PLO, it's they see a pretty hand and they pot it. Basically, is the attitude of most players, in my opinion. Difficult decision here, but I think we can go with a call. We've got a tough, aggressive, regular opening, and then a loose passive player coming along in the small blind. So our relative position isn't that bad, and we get some value from having the small blind in the pot, but we're still out of position against a tough regular, and that's going to be a real challenge as the hand progresses. Here, I don't think there's any merit in peeling with top pair. We do have a lot of kickers to hit, but drawing to two pair in general in PLO, especially 5 and 6, it's a very risky proposition. Our backdoors aren't great. We've only got queen high hearts, and I think it's fine to just fold in that situation. Definitely gonna fold here, despite being triple suited. This is a very weak hand. You notice the stretch all the way from Broadway cards to wheel cards. This is a much stronger hand. Okay, we've got the king of clubs. That's not that ideal. Although it's actually less of a factor in six card PLO because unlike four card PLO, where you make a lot of money from ace high versus king high flushes, especially when the king high flushes in the hand of a loose player, they don't mind going three streets for large bets on a pretty consistent basis. In six card PLO, you don't make your money from flush over flush. Even bad players have very little problem getting away from a second best flush. Okay, here on the turn, I guess we can semi bluff. We've got a wrap and the nut flush draw. I'd like to review that decision a little more when I have time. I think it's an interesting spot actually. Here, this is another tough one. I guess fold is okay. I would definitely play on the button. Very happy to raise here. We've got the nuts, and we've got two redraws. So uh, we're usually gonna be free rolling like another 8-9 pretty well. Actually, we're in very good shape against just the nut flush draw, who had blockers. Blockers are also not really as relevant in six card PLO as they are in four card PLO because it's just very easy for them to still have the straight. Now, that's not to say that there's no use for blockers, but you only use them. I mean, even in four card PLO, this is still sort of a factor for me, but you only really use them in spots where you think that your opponent is weak and you should be bluffing sort of at a higher frequency. So then you select those times when you do have blockers is like it only gives you a small percentage extra is my point in terms of the bluff CV. So if like the bluffs is break even without the blockers, and with the blockers maybe you gain like 1 or 2% edge on the spot because they fold that 1 or 2% extra or that whatever the math works out to be. I think we've got reasonable button open here, even with a very combative big blind who's sitting on a 700 big blind stack. So maybe he's running pretty good today. 994 and just going to give up here. It seems like a good bluff spot um, because we've got the proximity there, but I'm just going to fold and actually not going to three bet these aces here. As we only have one good suit. I wouldn't hate a three bet. We've got these are reasonable aces. Meanwhile, we flatted with really good aces here. Actually, triple suited, if you'll believe it. And we are actually going for the flat four bet if the small blind, who's been three betting just at an unbelievable rate over 257 hands, and who three bet us like the last pot we played, but three betting at almost 40%, 37% over 258 hands, which I guess is how you run up a 753 big blind stack. So we were gonna flat four bet, and here we're definitely gonna four bet with these are good aces, two nut suits. Okay, we don't have perfect connectivity, um, but these are good aces. This is a good hand. It's going to have a lot of enduring equity. And we flop 50%. And it's a coin flip. Unfortunately, it's a coin flip that we lose. I think we can see that here. We open three. We got two callers. Very bad turn card. And just an easy fold to the pot donk. That's a bad turn card because it completes the only front door draw in existence. 6-4. I think we can defend here. And we flop okay holding, queen 8, 9. We get led into not many draws in this board, just like ace, king, 10. We haven't heard from the other player yet. And I mean, the other thing is, like, our hand is so weak that we can't really sustain a lot of action anyway. So I have no problem, I guess, just letting it go. Like if a brick came on the turn and he potted into us, we'd probably have to fold anyway. So given the third player behind us and the fact that we're basically calling in hopes that our opponent shuts down and we still win the pot, I think it's fine to fold there. Although I wouldn't be surprised if my hand was competitive against like Villain's donking range. But it's just one of those situations where the fact that this is a multiplayer game, like even if that donk bet by Villain was like a bad move, it's really bad for us that it happened. because we're now caught in the middle, and um, yeah, it's just like a really bad situation for us. So it's one of those spots where like our opponent's mistakes can actually cost us money, when usually they cost our opponent money. I'm not even saying necessarily that play was a mistake. It might not be, but if it was a mistake that cost us money. And I guess the other thing is that if you're at a table where those things are happening at like a high frequency, you have to consider collusion. And I'm not suggesting that my opponent there was colluding at all. I don't think that's the case. I think it's just like a really aggro opponent that bets a lot, right? Which is obviously perfectly within his rights. Um, but that's one thing, that is one type of possible collusion to pay attention to, is if you're always like facing a bet with people left to act behind you. That's very unnatural, and that could be. I just think that when you play poker, you should always be, especially if you're playing for higher stakes, you should always at least be considering that possibility, and be prepared to quit a game if you suspect everything might not be on the up and up. There's always another poker game, So if you're in a game, you're running bad, you start to question whether everything's legit. Then it's better to just walk away, go to sleep, watch a movie, fight another day. Listen to your intuition, and at the very least, you'll go home, you'll sleep, you'll be refreshed the next day. So that's already an advantage, even if the game was perfectly fine, and it was just coincidence, uh, or whatever. But you should always be willing and able and thinking about whether or not you should be continuing to play in a particular poker game. There's a lot of reasons why you should quit a poker game. If you're tired, obviously, if you're playing poorly or you're on tilt. But people say you should never quit a poker game if it's good. But what if the game's always good? You just never quit? That's obviously not viable too, right? So, so you got to be prepared to walk away from some good games for some good reasons as well. All right, this is a monster hand. Ace, Queen, Jack, 10, 9, 8, triple suited. I mean, this is basically the gold standard of what a six-card PLO hand should look like. You've got, okay, we're facing a relatively tough opponent here, and then two sort of recreational players. But this player opens pretty wide in the cutoff, so I definitely have no problem three betting this hand. The loose calls, they're already in the pot, you know, so they're going to want to defend that, and a good chance we can play a big pot. Unfortunately, that is not my flop, and I just have to check fold. I have nothing, just air, and I'm almost certainly going to lose. But uh, you're not going to smash every three bet pot. That's fine. I am kind of curious. Do they both have the seven? Was Roxa's? I don't know if he would stab there on the flop, but pocket three seems unlikely. Maybe Roxas could have like aces and be doing like a weird sort of merge bet. Samurai probably has a seven. Question is, did he fill up or not? Like, what else is peeling on a 7-7-3 flop? And yeah, we'll never know, I guess. I'm super curious about that. This is another ultra premium here. Ace, king, queen, queen, jack nine, triple suited, just everything concentrated. So the pre-flop actions, get limped, I raised, they both called. And then I'm just checking the down post. think this might be like slightly thin for value betting with the two players. Maybe a small value bet, but all right, pretty monster flop here in a four-way limped pot. We've got from ace to nine and nut hearts. And I think it's a very easy just call here against the raise. It's just the height of folly to imagine that villain is on a draw. He's always going to have a set when I have this hand. When I've got the nut flush draw, when I've got the full wrap, like I just I just don't see him having anything but a set. And he does have a set, and and hopefully we can hold here on the river. We do hold, and we win a nice pot. Meanwhile, heads up, we flop top set against a tough regular, tight aggressive, give exclamation mark Belarus. No idea what that's supposed to mean. Presumably, yeah, he is from Belarus. Give exclamation mark. Give what to Belarus? Double suited hands in six card PLO always look better than they are because there's a certain symmetry or a certain aesthetic appeal that isn't matched by their caliber as a poker hand. However, that being said, I think Ace King King 985 is just about enough to open from our position, which was the MP, and we will fold. Good aces again, pretty good aces. We've got a nice little five cluster here, double suited, nut suits. I mean, these are good aces. There's no other way to describe them, but pretty good, very good aces. This guy may be playing too many tables, got disconnected. So we're happy to open to. Oh, this is an interesting hand here. So we're triple suited with three good suits, but we do have this deuce three. Unfortunate situation. Meanwhile, back to this table. Bear top two. I think we can bet. It's very marginal, although decidedly less marginal on that turn. We make queens full. This guy's a nit, so we're never getting any action. Aces and sevens, like it's not even worth uh, debating. I think versus a donk bet here. It's just we're not on that scale of how strong a hand has to be before we start thinking about calling. Here, 3, 5, 6, 8 nut outs with another player behind. All outs that could easily be duplicated. No backdoor flush draw. I think we can just fold to this donk bet here, right? If we get raised, it's bad. We're not going to make a ton on the turns when we make a straight. We are in position, which is nice, but this hand looks borderline. I'm going to go ahead and ISO. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a cuspy hand. Um, we've got pretty good connectivity, two suits, one nut suit, very important. Um, but I think middle cards are going to lose some value in four card PLO, or five card PLO rather. And we whip the flop, so just in check fold mode here. Not going to put any stock in our low gut shot. All right, pretty good flop here against a loose passive opponent. We flop top two, and we also have a double gut shot, king or nine. Very bad turn, since the straight is the only draw out there, straight draw. He bets half pot. This is a pretty loose passive opponent. We got 10 outs. 10 outs, getting 3-1. That's something. But if he has king 10, then those 4 win outs are actually 3 chop outs. I'm gonna make a fold there. I'm gonna lay it down. I believe he has this loose passive player has king 10. I believe that's why he bet the turn. It's also possible, um, albeit unlikely, that he has a set like 3 aces or something. In which case, our 2 pair outs would be actually not outs, but reverse outs. I think am I coining a term here? Reverse outs. All right, we open his hand out of the gun and got 2 callers. We only lose to pocket sixes, so that's pretty sweet. And maybe our opponent won't put us on the 3. Now we don't lose to any hand. So, whereas before we were praying he didn't have pocket sixes, now we're praying he does. Interesting flop here. We flop 3 nines, gut shot, and hearts. Not the greatest of turns, but it does give us 2 outs for a straight flush. And here's a little tip. You can absolutely just like check your flush and then check fold your flush, even though turn 1 check in 6-card PLO. Especially versus a loose passive like this. I would not be surprised if we were good only a very, very small fraction of the time there. But that's a very common line I see is people pot controlling are like not enough flushes and then going a large sizing for value on the river. So don't be surprised when you're hoping for a free showdown and you don't get it, and then they still have a flush. It's not a surprising thing there. All right, we do a marginal button open here. I guess we just check back the flop and fold the turn. I think we've got enough to ISO this unknown on the limper. And we're sort of targeting the small blinds call 2. Small blind loose passive recreational player. I mean, we've got a nut suit. We've got good connectivity in the 9 to 5 range. Only 1 gap. So it's not a terrible hand. We flop bottom set and a 9-high flush draw. And this is a spot you just need to play cautiously. I think we can bet the turn and then just take that free showdown on the river. Or fold to the pot bet, as the case might be.